My name is Tyler Bay, and this whole weekly wrangle is essentially about art reviews, industry news, and I also have a few job postings towards the very end that might help you out. This is also live, so feel free to add in any comments as we go along. I'll be taking a look at the chat over here for you guys. Yeah, this is just kind of a time to hang out and check out a few things. All right, so to get things started, I wanted to mention that Houdini 19.5 has released this month. So if you go to sideeffects.com, you should see all kinds of awesome new fancy things. And if we go here to the release button, the little Yeti dude, we have a sneak peek video, the launch events, and a summary up here of all the different things. So if you guys have looked into the Houdini 19.5 release, let me know what you think. It looks like in Solaris, we have the render region, which is super nice. You can drag out a little marquee selection, which has been long awaited for in my tutorial. So I'm happy about that. The layout brushes are improved. You can finally have some gobos. And I actually really like what they did to enhance the gobos here in Karma. So that's really cool. And they mentioned a few things as well that they're going to do in Houdini 20 coming up here soon. So definitely check out the presentation when it comes to their Karma stuff. It was looking super interesting. Also, there is the expansion of Material X, which is nice. Ocean rendering, Karma XPU. Honestly, the stuff that I was enjoying the most was the pyro and the flip fluids effects here. So with the pyro effects, we have source instancing, and I'm still trying to understand exactly what this is all about. But from my understanding, this is just a really fast and efficient way of taking little pyro chunks and just sending it through your scene in real time. So maybe one benefit to this could be really fast and interesting sourcing of some kind. I'm not really sure. I have yet to play with the source instancing to see how this practically relates to the typical pyro workflow. But it's really interesting to see what they're doing there. I guess this might be similar to what you have with the real-time fluid solvers with I think is it Jenga effects or Jenga effects, something like that. Embergen, stuff like that. They might be trying to do something similar with the source instancing. I'm not sure, but I'll have to take a look into that. This is also cool. They had this voxel size feature, which is something that we were doing in Pyro 3 in CG Forge, where basically you down-res some of the velocity fields, or we down-res some of these calculations that don't need to be super high. And when you do that, you get about an 8 times faster pyro sim with really not that much of a noticeable difference in the quality. So that's really cool. I'm glad that they picked up on that. An 8 times speed boost is a pretty big deal. And we have improved viewport rendering with the game engine workflows. So a lot of cool stuff in the world of Pyro, as well as flip fluids. This is kind of the main focus, I think, for the 19.5 release. We have SOP flip, so we have a bunch of SOP level flip tools. I'm thinking about making a course next that goes into this kind of stuff. Viscosity, interesting boundaries, up-resing stuff, interesting presets for the ocean spectra, and this really interesting shallow water simulation as well, which is a 2D fluid simulation. So this might be really useful for real-time applications. Anyway, yeah, this flip fluid stuff is pretty interesting, and I'm thinking about doing that for my next course. I know you guys have been asking for a good while now for me to do a flip fluids tutorial. So I'm going to play around with the SOP level stuff, see what I think about it. In the very least, the next course that I'll be doing is getting into these fluids and trying to give you guys an introduction to it all. There's so many different things when it comes to fluids, like narrowband. You have the SOP level stuff now, your traditional flip tanks, ocean tools. So I guess my goal for the intro to all that is to give you guys a broad exposure to those tools and how and when to use them. So that's going to be really cool. All right, so it looks like here on the chat, let's see. Can Houdini be used for character creation? And that's an interesting question. I think Dur Vancour, hopefully I said that right. What I think is that yes, it can, but not in a way that you would do for, let's say, ZBrush or something like that. Houdini is not really a sculpting or like a modeling program as much. The way I see Houdini as the program you go to when you have complicated character stuff that requires a lot of technical work. So, as an example, let's say a character artist made a golem in ZBrush and you need to turn that golem into a lava golem or something like that. That's a scenario where you might use Houdini to figure out those really complicated technical aspects of a character, or for claw simulation, for hair simulation, for all kinds of stuff. Heck, even rigging and animation, I think in the next version of Houdini is going to be really awesome. And Side Effects is also improving their rigging and animation every single release as well. So I think more and more, basically, you're going to see Houdini being used for characters, but just not in the same way that you would expect when it comes to like modeling in ZBrush or something like that. So anyways, good question there. Thanks for asking. Anyway, that's what's going on here, you guys, when it comes to the Houdini 19.5 release. I think it's a solid release. I think it's a nice little addition to everything. And what I'd like to do for the rest of this wrangle is to switch things up a little bit and go into some art reviews. We'll check out some Instagram posts that were retweeted by Side Effects. I actually haven't really looked at a lot of these posts myself. I just kind of went through the feed and made a new tab for each one. So let's check them out. We'll gather some inspiration. We'll talk about things that are working well, things that can be improved, and hopefully that will spark some interesting ideas for your own work. Okay, so with that being the case, let's start with this right here. This is by @Roman Kaleen. This is a breakdown for some effects that were made for IWC watches. So let's check this out from the beginning right here. We have this interesting fast cuts. We see that little Intagma tutorial grain explosion thing right there, which is pretty cool. Interesting kind of sand looking stuff. And really what I like about this is just how well it achieves all kinds of different particle effects. And not only particle effects, really, but a lot of interesting smoke, a lot of wires. This just goes to show what you can do when you know your particles and stuff really well. So I thought this was really great. What do you guys think could improve this? What do you like about it? I'm kind of interested to hear what you think about this here as well. Yeah, I guess, gosh, it's kind of hard to figure out exactly what would improve this. And we are seeing these cuts happening really quickly. One thing I can say is that when you have the cuts happening super fast like that, it makes it feel more intense. Notice how these cuts are happening quickly, and then we have the speed up, slow down thing happening all the time. That's a very common way of making something poppy, by the way. So if you're trying to think about stuff for your own reel and you want it to have that, I guess you would call this like a classic advertising kind of breakdown, or not advertising, how would you say it? Like a classic MoGraph sort of thing. That is a cool way of doing it. You cut to your different scenes really quickly. You introduce a bunch of speed up, slow down time warps, and then you show a bunch of stuff really quickly. That's a cool way of making things feel intense and kind of impressive, I guess. So flashy, maybe is the word I'm looking for. So yeah, really cool stuff. As far as like things that can make it better, I guess if I had to be super picky, I don't think that the monochromatic rendering is my favorite. I think I could probably do for a little bit more interesting stuff when it comes to materials, colors, lighting. Heck, even if you just took some lights and you changed the light color and some of this stuff, I think it'd feel a little bit less sterile, but that's just my opinion. So I think maybe if I was to pick a bone here and say what could improve this, I would say having a bit more of an interesting color palette besides that monochromatic green gray look. But that's just my personal taste. All right, cool. So that's that. This one here is by Marvelous Media Engine, a magical music night lights, Ponyo. Let's check it out. Start from the beginning here. So this looks kind of like almost like a toy sequence. And yeah, really cool. This is a super cool idea, by the way. Having a little miniature thing like that, and then just finding cool camera angles as it plays through. It's a really cool idea. So yeah, I think this is really awesome. It looks like there were some drop frames there towards the end, so that's kind of an obvious way of, improving this. I think that we had some drop frames there. That's not the internet connection of the live stream, at least I don't think. Yeah, no, there's definitely drop frames happening right there. It kind of got choppy. So I don't prefer that. I would say if you're gonna do the whole stop motion drop frame feel, do it for the whole thing, not just for the end right there. But overall, this is really, really cool stuff. And I just love the idea of having a little miniature island do stuff like this. And you just kind of zoom in and play through. Super cool idea. If somebody did this for like a demo reel or made like a little world and had a bunch of effects, then this would, I think, stand out quite well. Cool. So that's ways to improve it. Things I like. I love the concept, as I've said many times before. Also, if you notice, like we have that little rotating, like running thing, and then it just kind of stops, and then they're actually running. That was a interesting thing right there. I think the car swerve is cool. I love the lighting on the car swerve thing. You kind of have that interior yellow light on the car that adds a lot. So yeah, anyway, a lot of good stuff here. Let's see. This is a question here about a Discord server. I actually don't have a Discord server right now. I've had a lot of folks ask for a Discord server, and I have been on the fence about it. Just because it takes a while. It takes a lot of time for me to go through all the different social media platforms. And if I had a Discord server, I just don't know how I'd be able to, I guess, moderate it and have the time to do that and everything else that I do. So for right now, I really don't have a Discord server, but it's something I'm keeping in mind. So let me know if you guys would really like a Discord server, because I'm not close to the idea, but I just don't have the time at the moment. Anyway, what else do we have here? Let's go through a couple more of these, and then I'll talk about some news, and then I'll talk about a couple of job postings here as well. This was another one here by Roman Schieto, I believe. And this is a cool example of just some motion blur being used as an effect. You don't see that every day, actually. And it's a really cool way of doing things. Take motion blur, have a few layers of things blurring around, and then composite that motion blur on top to get this ghostly sort of effect. That's pretty much what's happening right here. Nothing that fancy, but it's really effective. So I thought this was a really cool technique right here. Again, you don't have to do anything crazy fancy. It's just a really good execution of a simple idea. So I like that. Here are some more still frames right here. And yeah, I thought that was pretty solid, honestly. I guess, again, ideas to improve this. What could be improved? Well, yeah, hmm. It's kind of hard to say what exactly would improve this situation, just because I think that the simplicity is kind of the appeal of this whole thing, if I'm being honest. But if I had to be really picky, and I do love the bubbles up here as well. That was a really nice touch. I guess if I had to be picky, you might benefit from some more dramatic lighting. I do like the subtle gradients in the back, but if we at least had maybe like a diagonal streak or some highlights going along that bottle, that might make the motion blur a little bit more interesting, because then it would carry the highlights as it went through this motion blur sequence, and it could create these sort of flashy light effects. So it's not really a critique, but I think it's a missed opportunity that could have been cool in this situation. So there you go. That is my thoughts there. Okay, this next one is by Desinoid Electrolux, looks like. And we have this abstract looking wire tree thing, kind of this silicon computer techie business going on. I'm not sure exactly what I'm looking at here. Maybe that's my first critique. I guess that would just be a critique in general of abstract art. I like things that I can understand to some extent. But I guess I did see that, yes, there is some kind of tree going on here. So that's cool. And yeah, it's cool. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's going to change the world, right? But yeah, I guess things that can improve it. Well, knowing what it is could definitely improve this a little bit. Also, I think that when you have so much visual complexity going on, like in the base right here, it just kind of turns into more of a blob of stuff. And this is actually something that I think trips people up sometimes. When you add too much detail and too much stuff and you can't get a good read on it, you can't get a good silhouette, or you don't know what it is because it's just too much, then it actually kind of backfires when there's that much detail, in my opinion. I think some folks really love that high detailed look, but in this case, I think it comes at the expense of reading what this is. Also, I think the camera angle isn't doing this a whole lot of favors either, or the crop here. This is a vertical crop. You can tell this was made for Instagram, or yeah, pretty much Instagram or TikTok or something. But sometimes these vertical camera crops are really difficult to work with, especially if your object is kind of flat and it kind of is more broad. Like if you had literally rotated this thing so it was a landscape crop, I think that you would have captured a lot more of what's going on here. But when it's vertical, I mean, there's just a lot of space like down here that isn't doing anything. Same up here. You could argue, well, this space down here is trying to create contrast between the objects, so it, highlights a silhouette or something. I don't know about that. I think it's kind of a stretch. I think this would benefit from landscape personally. But anyway, here nor there. This is really cool stuff. I think I don't know how the heck I would make a lot of well, I guess I would just make some of these effects by analyzing one thing out of a time. But really good job layering, interesting concept, and cool stuff. All right, let's move on to a little bit of news here for a minute. I picked out this article here at 80.lv because this is a great example of what really high quality cloth looks like. So this was a project made by Pauline Batu, but Boiteux, Petro. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. But Pauline made these beautiful, beautiful renders. And this was using, I think, Maya, Substance, and Marvelous Designers. Yeah, take a look at this. beautiful layering of these dresses. I think this was inspired by Game of Thrones. Look at all this intricate work here in the decals, I guess. So all this kind of sculpting stuff, really awesome. Right here, I think we get a little bit blobby in this part right here. But I mean, gosh, that's being picky, really. This whole thing is amazing. Look at the feathers coming out of that dragon right there. Look at how that wraps around and the neck ornaments right there. Amazing stuff. And then just even the texturing on this is fantastic as well. I mean, look at the kind of crinkling leaves that are happening right there as well. I imagine if you simulated something like this in Houdini, it would look fantastic. And if you guys are trying to do like a cloth demo reel or something like that, I mean, try to reach out to folks like this and just ask if you can use one of these garments for a simulation. Seriously, it would make your demo reel look amazing. So, yeah, Pauline did an incredible job with these cloth modeling and texturing pieces right here. And that's why I wanted to highlight it. What we also have here in the news front is a new method of hiding seams between hex tiles. So I was taking a look at this, and what I found, let's actually just go ahead and play this video. So here is tiling, and then here is the solution with this whole hex tiling thing. You basically create hexagons all along the ground, and you have red, green, blue hexagons, so 3 different versions of a ground texture, and then you rotate these hexagons around. So you can kind of see there's the hexagons, they kind of blur the edges like that, and then you rotate each hexagon by a random amount, and it gives you something like this. So you could definitely easily replicate that inside of Houdini, and I just want to show you guys what that looks like. I believe in the ocean tool sets, there is a similar thing that happens where we take areas of ocean and we have a different spectra that's masked in these different areas, and we can kind of blend them together in an interesting way. I suppose the critique I would have for this method right here is that it may struggle with any sort of visual elements that are big. So if you had like a pebble or something like that in, let's say, one of these, textures, these ground textures, I think that would still stand out quite a bit using this. And you might struggle to get anything that was a feature that was big in scale, like large, like visually large. So that would be my one critique of this particular technique, but it's something to keep in mind if you guys are looking for a solution to something like that. Okay, cool. Well, let's go through a few more of these art critiques. I don't want to spend too much time, so I'll kind of move on through some of this stuff. Let's see what's happening here. Well, speaking of stop motion, there you go. This is awesome. I love this kind of stuff, by the way. I'm totally a sucker for stop motion awesomeness. So I guess this was using Houdini. I'm not sure. Maybe it's for the hair, for the grass, something like that. Yeah, love the texturing, love the lighting. I mean, if we go back here, that lighting totally catches the vibe. I love the fact that they have rim lights. I love the fact that they don't have to light up the whole face with a big old key light. That doesn't really happen in the real world when you have a key light shining brightly on somebody's face at all times. So sometimes it's good just to let it go dark and just have a rim like this. Makes it super moody, and that can be good. And this is great too. I love the color palette, kind of these earthy tones. Works really well with the clay, by the way. Anytime you have stop motion and you have a earthy color palette, those two things seem to go pretty hand in hand just because we're looking at this natural textured object anyway. So that's really cool. And yeah, love the kind of, what would you call that? It's the light leak from the camera as he lifts the sun upwards. Check this out. So watch, see how it kind of got brighter there? That is awesome. Awesome stuff. So yeah, I guess what I love about this in large part is the lighting. Now, it's not like technically impressive when it comes to the grass or, just kind of the basic hair movements. I guess I shouldn't say it's not technically impressive. I'm sure it's working really well. Don't get me wrong. But it's still not like the craziest technical demo I've ever seen. But that's okay. It doesn't have to be a crazy technical demo every single time for it to be a great project. And that's actually something too I wanted to mention in general. As you guys are trying to put together your reels, yes, it's good to show off and it's good to have a lot of technical stuff in there and let people know that you can handle technical stuff. But if you had, let's say, some of these shots and it just looked really good, that would also just be a huge bonus to your demo reel. I think sometimes people get caught up in trying to find the most technically impressive thing they possibly can, and they kind of forget like the fact that people just want to see good shots. Like good sequences like this where it's just beautiful looking, nice lighting, nice little subtle animations, little details here and there. It just shows that, just shows your heart a little bit in some of these demo reels. If you can just have shots like this. Okay, so moving on. Let's see. This was a comment here by Malu Bots. Can you please do Unity Houdini courses? Yeah, I mean, that's definitely on the agenda. Right now, I'm getting done with Destruction 2. And, I had this awkward thing where I had like Destruction 1 and then Destruction 3. So I'm finally tying loose ends by making Destruction 2. It's turning out to actually be a pretty big course. I think I'm at about 6 hours of content so far with that, which is like a month of work for me to put that together. So yeah, right now my plan is Destruction 2 and then Fluids. And then at some point, I'm going to get into these real-time integrations. It might take a little while, but just be patient. I'll get to it here eventually. All right. So that is a great, again, sequence we saw there with Brunch Studio TV. And it looks like this is for a music video as well. So really cool. Here's some rope stuff. Talk about, technically impressive stuff. That's what this is all about. On the other hand, if you show technically impressive stuff like this and you make it look good, that's also super great. So yeah, really cool stuff. And this was one here from Intagma. They had a tutorial this month of this gross looking thing. Now, this was, I think, from Patrick from Alt Shift Official that helped around with this. I think it's technically cool, but kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, it's like you want to make stuff on your reel that people want to see. And so do people really want to see this? I don't. I mean, not really. I know there's like this subgenre of 3D out there that's like designed to make people feel as uncomfortable as possible. And I guess there is some artistic value to that. But my recommendation, guys, is that if you're trying to put something on your reel, make stuff that people want to see. Make stuff that doesn't make people feel like uncomfortable or like grossed out. I don't know. That's my personal opinion about it. I'm sure this stuff is technically awesome and it's a good technical exercise to go through. And look, you can make an argument for why this is cool all day long. But again, when you guys are picking out these projects, try to find stuff that is not gross or disturbing or, like sexual or, I don't know, like just weird shit like that. I don't I don't recommend it. Anyway, that would be my critique, is just the subject matter. Besides that, lighting's really cool. Technically, it's showing some interesting stuff. So there's the pros there. But that's what I have to say about that. Okay, we are running a little bit low on time here. So I want to try to keep this kind of more short and sweet. let me show just a couple more art reviews and then we'll get into the job postings and we will wrap this up. This here was done by Conti Chur, I think. And this was a really cool project. I think this is a very interesting idea. It's inspired by Dune. So I like the fact that the inspiration is there. It's coming from a place of like inspiration. The one thing I would say that is a constructive critique to this is just the scale. So when we see the little things of sand right here, this automatically makes me think like we are looking at something that's about beetle sized, like a tiny, tiny little insect, just because we can see the individual grains right here. So whenever you guys are doing stuff with grains, you have to be very, very conscious of whether or not you actually see the individual grains or not, because that affects your scale quite a bit. And when this thing comes up, it looks like we're looking at a miniature thing, right? But then we get to right about here, and it kind of feels like this was intended to be something bigger. And the reason why I say that is because of these mountains here in the back. So I think that this struggles a little bit with scale. And I know that's a hard thing to figure out, but just for your guys' own projects, I want you to pay attention to that because scale is super important when it comes to effects. And again, especially with grains, you have to be very aware of how big those grains look. But besides that, I love the simulation. I love the concept of this whole thing. It's really fun. I believe as well that the artist made all of this from scratch. So definitely bonus points for making everything from scratch. That takes a ton of work. And what a cool looking like object right there. I really love the modeling, the textures. I love how it came together with that kind of blooming flower effect. And I don't know if this is a original concept or not, but if it is an original concept, even cooler. So that's what I have to say about that. Okay, let's move on now to what else here? Well, yeah, let's just talk about this. There's one more news article I want to go through, and then I'll show you guys a few jobs and we'll call it a day. So this was a cool post that was done by Jacob Vondra, and it was a few breakdowns that were used in the Love, Death, Robots Houdini effect stuff. So one of the things I love in particular is using this guide geometry to then dictate the shape of the tree. I don't know the specifics exactly of how this was pulled off, but I wanted to show it to you guys because something like this would look great on a demo reel. And especially with the breakdown here, you have the guy here for scale, you have the input guide geometry. It kind of gives you a sense of how this was made without showing every single node along the way. It kind of shows you the big ideas. I believe this was research done by Axis Studios, and specifically that's where Jacob was working here. So yeah, cool stuff. And if you go to his art station, he has some more breakdowns here as well. So definitely check it out. Jacob Vondra has some really interesting work to explore. Okay, next up, here are some job opportunities that I found recently. And with these job opportunities, guys, I was thinking about this recently. I want to show you some studios that you might not know about. We all know about the Pixars of the world, ILM. I don't need to tell you about those guys because they're everywhere. But with some of these smaller studios, I think that's where many Houdini artists are going to find a lot of interesting opportunities and a lot of real opportunity when it comes to finding a fair degree of responsibility, potentially living in a city that's not super expensive. You know, in my personal opinion, if I was a junior and I was trying to go out into the world to find a job, or if I just didn't have a lot of experience yet, I think it would be best to find a small to mid-sized studio in a city that is a bit more affordable to live in. So, with those parameters in mind, I want to show you guys some of these studios that maybe you never heard of. Some of these positions are also open for remote work, and maybe that can provide some cool opportunities for you. Anyway, the first one here is with Squeeze, and they are based out of Montreal. Now, I know Montreal is not a cheap place to live, but Squeeze is a cool studio. I've never worked with them personally, but I've taken a look at some of their work here. They kind of have like a mobile game sort of vibe going on, but really high quality, like kind of cinematic mobile game sort of thing going on. I'm probably butchering exactly what they do here, but it's worth checking out. They have a 3D effects artist position. I think this position has been open, last I checked, for about a month as well. So definitely don't be shy to apply to this. It looks like 3 years of minimum extensive experience is what they are looking for. But even if you don't have that, I would recommend just trying to apply. See if your style matches up with theirs. It's always worth a shot. Next up here, we have Blue Bolts. And I think Blue Bolts, where are they located? They are located, I want to say, in the UK. I could be wrong about that, though. Let's see. If we go to their about. Yeah, I forget exactly where they're at. But I did see a job opening here for 3D generalists and effects TDs right here. So I think either one of those might be a really good Houdini position that you guys could be interested in. Yeah, so this is in London, actually. Again, a very expensive place to live, but it looks like these are all partially remote, except for the crowd TD. You might be able to go full-time remote right there as well. So cool stuff there at Blue Bolt. Halon Entertainment, that is another one. And these guys have, I believe, an environment artist position somewhere. So yeah, real-time environment artist, Houdini technical artist right there. And I think they are located in California, in San Diego. So yeah, full-time, looking for senior Houdini technical artist right here. 4 years of game industry or entertainment industry. Again, with the years though, just apply anyways. People will oftentimes hire you even if you don't have 4 years, as long as your stuff looks good. And yeah, I think this was one, don't quote me on this, but I think this was one where that could have been remote as well. So a cool thing to check out right there as well. Humanoid Studios is doing stuff. These guys are up in Canada. I think Edmonton. Yeah, Edmonton, Canada. Specifically, they're environment artist. Sometimes you'll find Houdini positions that are under like environment artist or like another title. So they might not obviously be using Houdini, but I did notice that an environment artist specifically was mentioning some Houdini experience here. So that would be an interesting opportunity there as well. And then last but not least, we have Behavior. So Behavior is specifically, I think, the owner of Midwinter Entertainment. And they also have a Houdini environment role that is available. So where is it? Yeah, they really talk about flexible hours, balancing work with play. Seems like they tend to be fairly, open to the idea of remote working or giving you lots of nice benefits, stuff like that. So that's cool. Senior VFX artist, environment artist with kind of a real-time emphasis is the name of the game here with Behavior Studios. So, excuse me. Anyway, guys, that about does it for this week's Weekly Wrangle. Let me know what you think about the format that I'm doing here. I'm trying to mix and match the live stuff, the art reviews, the news, the job stuff to give you guys a nice value once a month here with all this stuff. So let me know what you like. Let me know if there's anything I can improve with these Weekly Wrangles. I'll be really interested to hear what you think. Besides that, I hope that you guys have a fantastic August. I guess, is what we're heading into, month of August. Let me know if you guys need help with your studies. I'm always here to try to help you out at CG Forge. And I hope that you guys have a great day.